So how to do that? Very quickly, because Heidi has already spoken about it. First of all, the most accountable people are at the top. They need to walk the talk. They need to know how to talk about it. It's already a big challenge, because they need to dare to talk about it. And we are in a very sensitive moment with wokeism and so on. So they don't know how to face it. They don't know how to word it. So it's very complicated. You know what? What we are dealing about today is a science. It's of an incredible complexity. So we need to learn. And we are always, even myself, am I an expert? I'm not sure. I'm more knowledgeable for sure than 15 years ago. But I'm still learning, because the world is changing so fast. I have to adapt my reflections all the time. And I'm never good enough. I'm never good enough. Inclusion is like learning a new language. You never speak that language as well as your mother tongue. You're never as good. So inclusion is really about that. We must acknowledge that we are making mistakes, that we continue to make mistakes, that we don't know everything. And so for the top leaders that don't have the time to learn most of the time, and some of them are not so much willing to learn about these things, it's complicated. But you need to go up there in order to make a real change in the organization. Otherwise, you can make a change, but it won't last, because they need to lead by example. And then, of course, you need to train all the managers with inclusive leaderships, because intermediate managers are the ones that really make the culture of a company. You can have the best messages at the top, but then with your proximity manager, if he or she is not inclusive, doesn't behave in a fair way, then okay, these are only values on posters and talks, but nothing that is really ingrained in the day-to-day management. And then also all your system. Please review all your system. They are not fair to everybody. And at the end of the day, you need, of course, to embark all employees. By having also these anti-discrimination policies, you need to have very clear ways of identifying the types of discrimination, having how do you say that? A table for sanctions, because it's important that everybody that really doesn't behave in the way the culture want to achieve, then that person needs to be sanctioned. This is the so-called zero tolerance policy. It does not mean that everybody will be fired if there is, for example, ordinary sexism in the workplace and so on. It means that you have to tackle that. People need to feel that they can stand out, they can speak up, because they are in an environment of psychological safety, and they know that the company will deal with the problem, and that there will be a consequence for it. What we have, what the research, not we in JUMP, but the research have found out is that the more you put policies in place for gender equality and for diversity, the more people feel ready to be really ambitious. Do you know that phenomenon of opting out? You know it? You have heard about it? Some of you don't. Opting out is the thing that you know every day, that you face every day. This is the fact that when you ask a woman to take a position, she said, "No, thank you. I'm not so much interested. No, I won't apply for it." But you have all the capacities, you have all the skills, you have the experience to fill that position. No, but you know what? I want to have a great balance between my professional and my private life. And this is not the real reason behind it. This is the reason that we say, because we know that that will be heard, because this fits exactly in the stereotype of what we expect of women. But most of the time it is not about that. It is about the feeling that the struggle will be very, very hard. It is the feeling that they won't be treated on the same kind of criteria than if they were men, that it will be very complicated for them to thrive. They don't feel supported enough by the company and by the culture of the company. So when we say that women lack of ambition, I think that women are much more ambitious globally, because we are ambitious for our family life, we are ambitious for ourselves, and we are ambitious for our job. So how to frame, because it's important, I've said before that we need to train the top management, the leaders, in order for them to deliver the right messages. And it begins by that. It's not an HR issue. It's not a nice to have thing, to tick the box and to appear and so on. It's not for socially good. Of course, it's fundamental. Justice is fundamental. But within the company, that might not be the right message if it is the only one. It's not about having programs in favor of so-called female leadership. I absolutely don't buy it. And it's not a diversity mention. Gender equality is about half of the population, 60% of the graduates. It's not diversity. It's not a minority. And it doesn't need to be led by women for other women. Instead, it needs to be like that. It's a strategic business priority. It's a business issue. You need to. It's in order to really build stronger teams, have better innovation, more satisfied customers. It needs to be led by the CEO. These people need absolutely to be accountable. We have taken in JUMP that schedule that really shows. You will get the slides. Don't worry, because it's not easy to be very, very clear about everything that is put here. But there is an organization called Living Institute in Denmark that has done a brilliant work and has indicated. We have changed somehow some things, but what has a lot of impact and what is more difficult than anything else. And we see that here, point one is baseline survey and yearly data monitoring. This is what is at stake today in the masterclass. Synchronize top management and make them accountable. We have spoken about it. And then make it strategic with the mission and the business objective. So build the business case. We will speak about it. Look there. Women's network, very easy to implement. We ask one woman in the leadership. We ask her. She has no specific knowledge about gender equality. She has no time. She's in minority at that level. So she's a bit the Smurfette that does represent all women in an environment made by only men. She has no recognition of time. She has no budget most of the time. So it's not okay. It can be useful to create a safe space for women, but that will never make the difference. You will never achieve gender balance in numbers and inclusion within the behaviors if you make that or only that. Leadership program for women only. We do deliver them, so we do think they might be useful, but together with a lot of different things, and especially programs for men. because they need to support the change of the culture. They are the key actors. The boundaries, the weight must be on their shoulders, not on the one of women. So, build your business case. We know that, of course, all the added value of diversity, but diversity without inclusion doesn't stick, doesn't work. We know that. I wanted on that slide to say a word about you. You are dealing with human resources, most of you. You are dealing with DEI. You have the most difficult job ever. There was never a time before where you had to face so many individual different expectations. You have to craft your HR policies. That was never done before. And not only, now everybody is asking for the same dignity, the same, to have really, to level the playing field and to have more inclusive behaviors. This is the first time in the history of humanity. Before that, you had only one type of people in companies, and especially in managing companies, that were white men. And that were white men that had more or less exactly the same kind of structure in their family, the same kind of education. It was so easy. Now everything is completely, it's blurred out. You say that? It's very, very complicated to face. And most of the time you are not recognized for that complexity, for that difficulty. You don't get the budget to make a difference. You don't get enough people in your team. And you don't receive. You have the pressure to see change happening, but you're not giving the time to implement everything. So really, what we need to do, and I hope we do that every day in JUMP, is that we do support people that are change makers like you. You are change makers. You are internal change makers in order to change the culture of the company. If you change the culture of your company, you change the responsibility of your company, internal, external. If we do that, we change the economy. We make it more sustainable and more responsible. And if we do change the economy, we change the world. So thank you so much to be ally for changing the world, to make a better world. Alors, we have here Sarah and Dia Kriye. Where are you, Sarah? We have worked with at the National Bank of Belgium, and what we did is that we trained the first group of people that were willing to really embark in that journey. So because they needed the basics of what is at stake in diversity and inclusion, and one of the first very thing that we did is the business case. Every company, to make it strategic, I think needs to really put down all the reason why it is strategic. And of course, it is different from company to company. We have also the one, we didn't make the one of Orange, but it's somehow similar, but somehow different also. And we have the one of Engie with its CEO, Catherine McGregor. We didn't design a specific picture like you saw for the first two, but she has always the same message that is brought to every employee. She puts it like a business priority in order really to be more clever, more innovative. Yeah, more clever because it's half of the brains that she wants to use. Well, this is very, very, very simple. And 50-50 just makes good business case. We have Sarah Jane Horner. Where are you? Voila. She's in charge of that big transformation for Engie Europe. And it's been 4 years now that Engie at the group level has decided to make us incredible change. Not only they want to be net net carbon in 2045, but they want also to be gender balanced. It means a minimum of 40% of each gender by 2030. And so they have launched an incredible strategy with a lot of different actions. So what makes a good D&I business case? It needs to be simple. If it's a document of 30 pages, it's not useful. You need to tie it not only with the values of the organization. I forgot something that is important, but with your business objective. You have a strategy. You have business objective. It needs to be linked to it. Why is D&I important? What is the purpose? Based on the relevant facts, we will see diagnostic. So, tell me, raise your hands. Who has done the exercise of having your own business case for D&I? Let me see. Plus haut. Petra, comme ça. Otherwise, I don't see you. Only 2, 4, 5, 6. Sarah, of course. Even without a specific action plan, they already achieve such a high level because their culture is different from the other ones. So you see how culture is important. Our strategy, culture, it's strategy at breakfast. It's really about that.
I think it's totally true. Because when you look at founders and the people who are there for a long time and who are really important in this company, for the culture ambassadors, those are the CFO, the COO, the CEO, and then Françoise, because she was a former CEO. From those 4, 3 of them are women, and they are really good ambassadors.
Eh ben voilà. We say in French, c'est QFD. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Marek. So how to measure diversity and inclusion? We have seen how it is important to do the diagnostic, to set targets, and to monitor the figures. Fundamental, because it's a strategic issue. What gets measured gets done. Otherwise, so if we are blind, we see, but of course, in most of the companies we are getting for the first time, people say, we don't see the problem. We treat women equally to men. And I said, this is the problem. Why? Because if you treat in the same way 2 persons that are in a different kind of environment, that have other kind of specificities of barriers and so on, so you might discriminate. So you have first of all to recognize inequalities in order to begin to be fair. So you need to really put your inclusion glasses on your nose. Alors, of course, you need to measure regularly. You need, because you measure it, you build your action plan on really, it's a data-driven action plan. And of course, it helps you so much in convincing the management that you need to do something. Because if they don't have the data, they don't feel it's strategic enough. They don't see what can be the problem and what might be the objective. So it's very important for you to get the right budget to convince the leaders, and you will convince them with data. These are the metrics that you should track. These are a few of them. You have many more. Do not hesitate to go on Google and because I've taken that slide, I've stolen it from Google, from that organization, Academy to Innovative HR, and they have quite a short article explaining explaining every aspect of the matrix, and I think it's really, really well done. You see, you even have ENPS. What should it be? It's Employee Net Promoter Score. So how much is your company recommended to women outside of the company? How much do your employees support the attractivity of your company towards their children, towards their friends? This is a brilliant one, but all of them are very important. For sure, you need to be proactive. You need to get the support from the management, and what is important is a systemic approach. We have heard that it's not easy when you decide it in the headquarters, when you decide a policy at the headquarters, then to make it local, to have enough budget in the headquarters in order to launch the project in every entity, and then to pass the ball to the entities and ask them to have their own budget. At that specific point, usually it's stuck. And you know what? I think, for example, I had, it was about homosexuality, and I had Booking.com in a training that said that they are also, they were based in Russia. It was before the war, so I don't know at which stage they are yet. And my question was, I know that you're very bold on the homosexuality within your workforce. You are one of the major sponsors of the Pride and so on and so on. What do you do? How do you adapt to Russia? And the guy said, we don't adapt to Russia. This is part of our value. We won't treat people differently because the culture of the company is discriminating these people. We don't want to be part of the discrimination. And you know what he says? It's absolutely incredible, because since we are bold on that, even in countries like Russia, we attract so many brilliant people that we didn't even imagine to be capable of attracting. Because people will come into the company because they feel more respected. I found that this is very important. When you have a zero tolerance policy against sexism, don't care about the national regulations. Don't care about Hungary or Poland will do. Don't care about it. It's your values, it's your behaviors, and these are the ones that need inclusive and respectful to everybody. So, how do you measure inclusion? Because we have seen the metrics to have the diagnostic, but then inclusion is something else. So, there are three aspects of inclusion that you need to measure. First of all, the level of inclusion of your leadership. Then your culture of inclusion. Like I said, these are these sets of behaviors. The things we used to, we do like that here. This is how we work. How do you work? Is it discriminating to somebody? Somebody, any kind of category? And your system with your HR processes. You have different types of getting there, different methodology of getting there. First of all, the best one, I think, but everyone has advantages and disadvantages. I love, of course, the DEI survey. This is a survey, a big survey that needs to be done at least once every 2 years in order to measure the progress with a lot of questions, and especially questions that can be analyzed by demographics, because otherwise you can have, if you have 80% of men in your company and you have 80% of people that say, I'm so happy about our D&I policy, what does it say? Nothing. So you have really to analyze it by demographics. You can have, of course, you have that, your annual engagement survey, where you include some specific questions, like the net promoting score, for example. Would you recommend to come to work in our company, to your daughter, to your sister. Interesting to see the results, or the survey pulse that is much more quick and that can be done more than once per year. So you need to have a minimum response rate, otherwise your results are not credible enough. You need that all your questions need to be mandatory. Maybe not all the questions about a man, a woman, a non-cis person, my age, my status of parenthood. These kind of things can. You can say, okay, fine enough if you don't answer to them, but usually people do. And of course, you need to pay attention to the representation of every group in your final results. Gender blind. Well, women are treated equally to men. Women have the same rights. Women have access to the equality to the same opportunities. Or gender bilingual. We need to do something about it. Of course, in every survey you will find that. Women tend to score lower every issue. 10 years ago, I was in Madrid at a conference of best place to work, and the guy presenting his methodology in front of a women's network, he said, "I don't understand. Women are always more unsatisfied than men. They are much more complicated." And all the women were there saying, "Oh yeah, it must be true, we are complicated." And so I stood up and... So it's because the experience of the workplace for women is not the same as for men. So it takes time to do that, of course, at least for the first survey. Pay attention to your questions. Your questions must be how can I say that, detailed. At least they must be really comprehensive in the same way by everybody. Pay attention of the poorly worded questions. If I have a recommendation to give to you, is to buy the book Inclusion Nudges by Tina Nielsen, because for every kind of action she has identified nudges that you can use for retention, for recruitment, for meetings, for trainings, and so on and so on. And what she says, and we use that in JUMP all the time, is that the verbatim in the surveys are very important, because this is there where you get the real story. And you need to share the real story with the ones that don't experiment at all the same thing in the workplace, because this is an eye-opening. I will skip because I'm pretty sure very, very late. So these are the practices also that you need to analyze: recruitment, promotion, remuneration, leadership development, flexibility, the culture of the organization. I like that one. If you're not actively including, you are probably unconsciously excluding. I'm sorry, you wanted to take a stick. Build your plan, data-driven. Monitor your progress, and then go ahead. You have so many things to do. many things to do. We will skip it. When we did that just before the pandemic, we did a survey to see among all our clients who did what. And what we saw is that the goal setting, the KPIs and the targets were very low scored, because most of the time these kind of things are not done. The review of talent management processes and systems, the review of business processes and systems. So the things that really make the difference are not done. Well, I shouldn't say so. There is no silver bullet. There is nothing that is unuseful to achieve gender equality, diversity, inclusion. Everything is useful. The problem is that you need to put in place so many measures to get there. And you see, for inclusion, the cultural assessment is ranked very, very low too. And once again, the unbiasing the process is merely not done. Christine, can I call you, because you are much more concise than I am? So I introduce you to Christine Cecil. I have the pleasure to work with her, take a mic there, to work with her for so many years, and you will explain what our clients do in 2 minutes. Huh? The most difficult part, the aspect, I give it to her.
You've got, is this working? Yeah. You've got here is our sort of recommended process that we work on when we work with clients, and it's an iterative process. So generally we start off with basically onboarding and raising awareness with everyone. That's the top management. You've got to get them on board. Heidi said this early on. It's so important. You've got to make them accountable. At NG, they put the accountability to achieve gender balance in their bonuses. So that's making them accountable, and you've got to build the business case. And then you go into the data, you go into the diagnostic, you start auditing, you follow on with a plan that you put in specific KPIs, and then get the different elements of building change. What's interesting is that with all the different organizations that we've worked with, people jump in at different stages. So there is no rule, actually. You don't have to start at the top. And we've worked with companies where the top was not onboarded, and we couldn't start at the top. So we went grassroots, and we started down here, started building the change grassroots. And then at some point, the top woke up and said, hey, that's really interesting. Can you train us on this as well? So it works at different levels, and you can jump in at different levels. And when you've gone all the way around, generally you have to start again because the management has changed. A new CEO comes in, and the process is iterative. So there are different organizations that we've worked with.
Wow. This is an illustration of our, the companies we're working with. This is for EPO.
So European Patent Office was one organization where we struggled onboarding the top management, actually. And so that's where we went grassroots. There was a very, very dedicated HR leader who was absolutely convinced that they needed to tackle inclusive behaviors in their organization. It was a pretty hard organization, not very inclusive in behaviors. They were struggling with a lot of issues that they were hearing from their employees about not feeling inclusive. So what did we do? We went and dived in to exploring with the management committee what they thought about inclusion, but then focus groups with the different people, and working both with employees, with their counselors, with the delegates for the personnel, and with the managers on what were the inclusive behaviors that they thought were that they wanted to build on in the organization, and what were they missing. And we came up with 10 inclusive behaviors for the EPO that then they rolled out through workshops to all the managers. So they trained their entire management levels, and then started going down to all employee levels by building up the different things.
And this is about, with NG, what we did is that we helped them to co-create, this is the action plan of NG in order to achieve gender balance by 2030. It's a rocket, but like Christine said, it's a rocket that doesn't go on the moon and come back. It's a rocket that goes like a satellite. It's a never-ending story.
But this was it was an example of where you start at corporate level, and they put in a very focused plan with a diagnostic of each of their major entities and trained each of the entity excos, and then started handing over, and there's a lot of different projects going on then to the local levels, as was explained before, who then can take the different elements from the corporate level and start embedding it locally. One of the programs that we set up, and this is what Isabella was saying, often is led by women for women when you're driving change, and they're hitting a certain number of walls and stumbling across a certain number of obstacles along the way, and they don't understand it. So we raise awareness for the women, and we give them some tools to tackle that until the organization changes, because it's not going to change straight away. On the same time, there were sessions driven by men for men. So some of our male trainers who are embarking all the men, the top leaders at NG, so they can walk the talk, understand what's needed, get out of that sort of slightly uncomfortable, how do I speak about it? How do I engage on this? What's in it for me? And everyone's brought together in gender dialogue sessions, which we're setting up at the moment, where they join together and say, how can we lead this together?
And this is to end it, because we need to face that equality and even diversity is not natural, unfortunately. It's like we have a car driving up the hill. If you don't always have your foot on the accelerator, automatically the car will go backwards. So it's a measure of putting pressure all the time. It requires so much effort. And we will leave you with that. What we do think is that a workplace that works for women works for everyone, because a rising tide lifts all boats. Thank you so much.